Tonight, we're diving deep into the shadows of the internet, into the corners of Reddit where truth is often stranger and far more terrifying than fiction. These are stories shared by real people, experiences that have stayed with them long after they happened. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare yourself. These are for allegedly true horror stories from Reddit that will make you question everything you thought you knew about the world around you. Let's begin. Our first story comes from a user who worked as a late-night security guard at a desolate, abandoned warehouse. It was the kind of job where boredom was the biggest enemy, or so he thought. One night while doing his rounds, he heard a sound. It wasn't the usual creak of old metal or the scuttling of rats. It was a soft, rhythmic tapping coming from deep within the main storage area, a section that was supposed to be completely empty. He grabbed his heavy-duty flashlight, his heart starting to pound a nervous rhythm against his ribs. The tapping continued, steady and deliberate. As he pushed open the heavy door to the storage area, a wave of cold air washed over him. He swept his flashlight beam across rows of empty shelves, dust motes dancing in the light. Nothing. The tapping stopped. He called out, "Hello, security?" Only the echo of his own voice answered. Thinking it was just the building settling, he turned to leave. It's when he heard it again, this time closer. A whisper, like dry leaves skittering across pavement right behind him, said a single word, "Found." He didn't wait to see who or what it was. He bolted, locking the door behind him, and didn't stop running until he was in the safety of his small security office. He spent the rest of his shift with his back against the door, listening. He never heard the whisper again, but he could never shake the feeling that something had been hunting for him in the darkness, and that night, it had found him. He quit the next day. Next, we have a story from a woman who bought a charming antique rocking chair from a secondhand store. It was beautifully carved wood, a perfect addition to her cozy living room. For the first few weeks, it was just a piece of furniture. But then, strange things started to happen. She would come home from work to find the chair rocking slowly back and forth on its own, as if someone had just gotten up from it. At first, she blamed drafts or the unevenness of her old wooden floors. But the movement became more pronounced, more intentional. One evening, as she sat reading on her sofa, she watched in disbelief as the chair began to rock violently, slamming back and forth with incredible force. The air grew cold, and she felt a profound sense of sadness wash over her, a grief so heavy it was almost suffocating. Terrified, she did some research on the chair's origins. She managed to track down the family of the previous owner. They told her the chair had belonged to their grandmother, who had passed away in that very chair while rocking her newborn grandchild, a child who had tragically died from an illness just days later. The family believed the grandmother's grieving spirit was attached to the chair, forever stuck in a loop of her deepest sorrow. The woman immediately got rid of the chair, but she says that sometimes, late at night, she can still feel that wave of unexplainable grief and sees a rocking motion from the corner of her eye. This third account is from a group of friends who went camping in a remote national forest, miles from any trail or road. They were experienced hikers, looking for a true wilderness experience. The first night was peaceful. Second night, things changed. As they sat around the campfire, they heard a voice calling from the deep woods. It sounded like a woman, crying for help. Their first instinct was to go look for her, but one of the friends, a seasoned outdoorsman, stopped them. He said it was a known tactic used by predators, both animal and human, to lure people away from the safety of their camp. They stayed put, their blood running cold, as the cries continued for over an hour. Sometimes sounding close, sometimes far away. They seemed to be circling their campsite. But the most unsettling part was what happened next. The crying stopped and was replaced by a different sound, perfect imitation of one of their own voices, calling another's name from the darkness. "Hey Mark, come look at this." Mark, of course, was sitting right there by the fire, pale as a ghost. They huddled together, armed with knives and bear spray, feeding the fire until sunrise. They packed up in a hurry and hiked out, never looking back. They still don't know what was out there in the woods that night, but they know it was intelligent, it was a mimic, and it was trying to separate them. Our final story is perhaps the most chilling, as it takes place in the one place we all supposed to feel safe, our own home. College student, let's call him Leo, was living alone for the first time in a small ground floor apartment. He started noticing little things amiss. The TV remote would be in a different spot than where he left it. The milk would be moved to a different shelf in the fridge. He brushed it off as his own forgetfulness. Then, one night, he woke up to the distinct feeling of being watched. He opened his eyes and saw nothing, but the feeling was so intense he couldn't get back to sleep. The next morning, he found his phone on his nightstand open to the camera roll. There were dozens of photos, all taken in the dead of night. They were blurry, dark pictures of him, sleeping in his bed. Some were taken from the foot of the bed. Others were taken from mere inches away from his face. His blood turned to ice. Someone had been in his room, standing over him, taking pictures as he slept. He checked all the doors and windows. They were locked, just as he'd left them. There was no sign of a break-in. He called the police, who found a small, dirty handprint on the wall behind his headboard, near a narrow crawl-space access panel he never even knew existed. He moved out that same day and never went back. He sleeps with a chair wedged under his doorknob now, forever haunted by the images of a stranger watching him in the dark. These stories remind us that the veil between our safe, predictable world and a much darker reality can be terrifyingly thin. Was it a ghost in the warehouse? A grieving spirit in a chair? A mysterious creature in the woods? Or something far more human and sinister hiding in the walls? We may never know for sure. What we do know is that these experiences have left a permanent mark on those who live them. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the dark. If you enjoyed these stories and want to hear more, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next descent into the shadows. Stay safe out there and always check your crawl spaces.